Hello, I'd like to welcome you to our special Objector.Church webcast. This special is intended to be an alternative take on the 4th of July, but from an anti-imperial, anti-militarist perspective, which is particularly important on a day like this, when our nation's political leaders are using this day to celebrate America's heritage of violent warmongering and imperialism. Well, we at the Objector.Church have a different perspective on this, in part because of our orientation as a peace-focused religious humanist community. As such, we see our loyalty to humanity as being a higher value than loyalty to the nation-state. That said, we are based in the USA, and so we are in a particular place and social context, which means to be responsibly present, I think we need to know our history. And that's where it gets tricky. You see, here in the USA, our school systems teach history, theoretically. But in practice, much of what is called history is something else. At its worst, it is rank propaganda. You know what I'm talking about, the rah-rah, America is the greatest kind of stuff. But more often, thankfully, history education focuses on a so-called objective view of history, seeking to tell the story with honesty from the perspective of the outside, detached observer. But there's a problem, because we all have our biases, and often the outside, detached observer is, let's be frank, biased too. But there's another approach, a subjective approach, but one that seeks to be honest in its subjectivity, sometimes called a people's history approach. This approach argues against the whole notion of objectivity in telling history, and argues instead the key is to speak from a place, from a bias, to be honest with that, but to do so and particularly be mindful about whose perspective you're speaking from. Now, there's many historians doing this today, but there's three that I'm most familiar with, and that's who I'm thinking about a lot today, and those are Howard Zinn, author of A People's History of the United States, Davis Joyce, who has edited several good books on Oklahoma's alternative history, the history that wasn't always told in the history books. And finally, Roxanne Dunbar Ortiz. She has written on so many subjects. Her most recently, I think, is has a focus on the indigenous history of this nation. But probably what I'm the most drawn to, actually, is her autobiographies, her memoirs in 3 volumes, telling about her upbringing as an Okie, growing as someone living in poverty here in the situation in Oklahoma, all the way up through the present. There's I just love her approach and her ways of digging in and sharing very honestly and frankly some bits of history that often get forgotten. But to explain a little more about this, I am going to play a short little excerpt from a 2009 interview of Davis Joyce. This was an interview done with Amy Goodman of Democracy Now! So we're just going to play a little excerpt of that.
Welcome to Democracy Now! Very briefly, in this last few minutes we have, can you talk about Oklahoma for an audience that spans the world? What should we understand about your history here?
Good morning, Amy. Thank you very much. I will try to be brief, though you know that doesn't come naturally to professors. My approach to Oklahoma history is an approach that's been very much influenced by Howard Zinn and his idea of history from the bottom up, or people's history. Thus, my works focus on women and minorities and radicals who have worked to improve the quality of people's lives and the common people. And when I do look at a subject that's a standard part of Oklahoma history, I try to look at it in a new revisionist, what I call alternative manner. You mentioned, for example, the land runs. I gave a talk during the centennial year of Oklahoma statehood, 2007, and someone was critical at me at the end because I had not mentioned the land run. And I said, well, I have an essay in my book about the land run. It's called The Difficulty of Celebrating an Invasion. So I think there's something to be said for looking at those ignored parts of our past and those progressive parts of our past that many people have forgotten about.
So anyway, that's the approach we're trying to do with the rest of today's program. The reality of it is that most of us know more than we need to know about presidents, generals, captains of industry, the rich and the powerful. Those are the people the history books focus on. Those are the names you get quizzed on when you're in school. But instead, we need to know more about those whose names aren't being told, the forgotten, the oppressed, and especially about the times when the oppressed stood up and found ways to resist. Those are the stories we need to be telling today. Now, this program will barely scratch the surface of this history, but I'm hoping it will be a starting point for future explorations and celebrations of the people's history of this nation, and not just this nation, but other nations as well. In today's program, I will be mixing up a variety of sources, including some historical videos, folk songs, and other artistic forms to tell this story. And to be honest, I'm trying to lift us up a little bit. Today is a dark day for many of us who are not buying the propaganda, and so I'm trying to give a little bit of an alternative inspiration. Of course, as always, we welcome your comments and further discussion. You can post your comments on Facebook during the live premiere of this video, but after that, feel free to continue to talk about the video, the ideas we're talking about here on social media. You're always also welcome to send me an email at james@Objector.Church. So, let's go ahead and start with the theme of the day itself, the 4th of July. But in this case, we'll be going back in time to July 4th, 1852. A time when half of this nation held African Americans in slavery, and the other half of the nation profited and cooperated in propping up the system of slavery in the South. Frederick Douglass, the abolitionist who only having escaped slavery 14 years before, was asked to speak on the 4th of July in 1852 to the Rochester Ladies Anti-Slavery Society. Here is an excerpt from the speech performed by the one and only James Earl Jones.
Frederick Douglass. Frederick Douglass, once a slave, became a brilliant and powerful leader of the anti-slavery movement. In 1852, he was asked to speak in celebration of the 4th of July.
Fellow citizens, pardon me, and allow me to ask, why am I called upon to speak here today? What have I, or those I represent, to do with your national independence? Are the great principles of political freedom and of natural justice embodied in that Declaration of Independence extended to us? And am I, therefore, called upon to bring our humble offering to the national altar and to confess the benefits and express devout gratitude for the blessings resulting from your independence to us? I am not included within the pale of this glorious anniversary. Your high independence only reveals the immeasurable distance between us. The blessings in which you this day rejoice are not enjoyed in common. The rich inheritance of justice, liberty, prosperity, and independence bequeathed by your fathers is shared by you, not by me. The sunlight that brought life and healing to you has brought stripes and death to me. This 4th of July is yours, not mine. You may rejoice, I must mourn. To drag a man in fetters into the grand illuminated temple of liberty and call upon him to join you in joyous anthems were inhuman mockery and sacrilegious irony. Do you mean, citizens, to mock me by asking me to speak today? What to the American slave is your 4th of July? I answer, a day that reveals to him more than all other days of the year the gross injustice and cruelty to which he is a constant victim. To him, your celebration is a sham. Your boasted liberty, an unholy license. Your national greatness, swelling vanity. Your sounds of rejoicing are empty and heartless. Your denunciation of tyrants, brass-fronted impudence. Your shouts of liberty and equality, hollow mockery. Your prayers and hymns, your sermons and thanksgivings, with all your religious parade and solemnity, are to him mere bombast, fraud, deception, impiety, and hypocrisy, a thin veil to cover up crimes that would disgrace a nation of savages. There's not a nation of the earth guilty of practices more shocking and bloody than are the people of these United States at this very hour. At a time like this, scorching irony, not convincing argument, is needed. Oh, had I the ability and could reach the nation's ear, I would today pour forth a stream, a fiery stream of biting ridicule, blasting reproach, withering sarcasm, and stern rebuke. For it is not light that is needed, but fire. It is not the gentle shower, but thunder. We need the storm, the whirlwind, the earthquake. The feeling of the nation must be quickened. The conscience of the nation must be roused. The propriety of the nation must be startled. The hypocrisy of the nation must be exposed, and the crimes against God and man must be proclaimed and denounced.
Douglas sat on the plantation looking at the iron chains. Spent his days and nights just praying for that mythical massive change. Well, he prayed and he prayed and he prayed, but he never got away. He prayed and he prayed and he prayed, but he never got away. One day he made the move, headed for the trees, running faster than he ever did. When he made it up north to relative safety, he would told his tale like this. He said, I prayed and I prayed and I prayed, but I never got away. I prayed and I prayed and I prayed, but I never got away. Till I prayed with my legs. Well, the tired soldier stared up north toward all impending doom, thinking about the dead, just wishing to God for a day when he would come back home. Well, he prayed and he prayed and he prayed, but he never got away. He prayed and he prayed and he prayed, but he never got away. Well, finally it hit him on a 2-week leave like a hard slap in the face. Headed out to Okinawa one night, never came back to base. Well, he prayed and he prayed and he prayed, but he never got away. He prayed and he prayed and he prayed, but he never got away. Till he prayed with his legs. Well, down in NAFTA country, where the resources are up for sale, the farmers were getting squeezed dry by the hands of northern capital. Where they prayed and they prayed and they prayed, but they never got away. They prayed and they prayed and they prayed, but they never got away. Well, what the farmers gathered in the jungle shade to design a key that fit. Well, 10 years later they hit the streets armed, and that was it. Well, they prayed and they prayed and they prayed, but they never got away. They prayed and they prayed and they prayed, but they never got away. Till they prayed with their legs. Well, you can pray in the morning, you can pray at night, and keep waiting for the mighty hand. But you can answer your own prayers if you shake the fear and take a stand. Well, some pray with union, some pray with guns, some pray a million deep. Well, some pray with their machetes, and they pray out in the streets. Pray, gotta pray, gotta pray, gotta pray with your legs. Well, if you pray, gotta pray, gotta pray, gotta pray with your legs.
What you just heard was James Earl Jones doing a dramatic reading of "To Walk to the Slave is the 4th of July" speech by Frederick Douglass, followed by Ryan Harvey with his song "Pray with Your Legs." So, what does the 4th of July represent to you? Is it a day to celebrate or a day to mourn? Is it a day to organize and fight back? Is it a day to drink beer, chill out, and try to forget about it all? Well, while we're thinking about that question, I want to share a couple of songs. Folk songs in the truest sense of the word that tell of people who chose to resist the empire. Let's just be frank, the evil empire.
Terry Whitmore went off to war. He saw the same nightmare so many seen before. He saw the facts all distorted, rapes and murders unreported, burned down villages, mass graves and more. But he shook it off, tried to play it cool, awoke each morning trying to make it through. Just take it day by day and try to kill the enemy, 'cause if you don't, he or she might be killing you. Terry Whitmore was a Marine, a hard and angry, well-oiled machine, ready on command to tighten up his hand and send 1,000 rounds flying through the trees. He walked the trails, each step with care, in case the landmines start exploding everywhere. But as the bodies piled up, he didn't seem so tough, 'cause those romantic myths of war all disappeared. Terry Whitmore, he got it bad, countless shards of metal sticking in his leg. They were under open skies and they were taken by surprise, and the mortar landed a couple of feet away. He was taken off to Japan, got a medal pin from LBJ's own hand. Now he was hurt but he was strong, 'cause he was finally going home. But once he could walk they tried to send him back again. Terry Whitmore, he finally fled. He met some anti-war activists in Japan, and they helped him flee, got him a ticket for free on the Underground Railroad heading west. So there he was, all in disguise, deserting on with 6 other guys. And he said, "Fuck you, Uncle Sam, I've got my freedom back again. You can keep your war and all your racist lies, 'cause I was fighting the Viet Cong, while back in Memphis cops was chasing us with dogs. Did I really do that shit?" He said in retrospect, Terry Whitmore's fight was not in Vietnam. Terry Whitmore, he was but one of the soldiers who did what had to be done. And in breaking with the lies, he saved countless lives, 'cause when he walked away, he helped end Vietnam. When he walked away, he helped end Vietnam.
My name is John Riley. I'll have your ear only a while. I left my dear home in Ireland. It was death, starvation, or exile. When I got to America, it was my duty to go, enter the army and slog across Texas to join in the war against Mexico. And it was there in the pueblos and hillsides that I saw the mistake I had made. Part of a conquering army with the morals of a bayonet blade. And there amidst all these poor dying Catholics, screaming children, the burning stench of it all, myself and 200 Irishmen decided to rise to the call. From Dublin City to San Diego, we witnessed freedom denied. So we formed the St. Patrick Battalion and we fought on the Mexican side. We formed the St. Patrick Battalion and we fought on the Mexican side. We marched neath the green flag of St. Patrick, emblazoned with Erin-Go Bragh, bright with the harp and the shamrock, and Libertad para la Republica. Just 50 years after Wolftone, 5,000 miles away, the Yanks called us a legion of strangers, and they can talk as they may. But from Dublin City to San Diego, we witnessed freedom denied. So we formed the St. Patrick Battalion and we fought on the Mexican side. We formed the St. Patrick Battalion and we fought on the Mexican side. We fought them in Matamoros, where their volunteers were raping the nuns. In Monterrey and Cerro Gordo, we fought on as Ireland's sons. We were the red-headed fighters for freedom amidst these brown-skinned women and men. Side by side we fought against tyranny, and I dare say we'd do it again. From Dublin City to San Diego, we witnessed freedom denied. So we formed the St. Patrick Battalion and we fought on the Mexican side. We formed the St. Patrick Battalion and we fought on the Mexican side. We fought them in 5 major battles. Churubusco was the last. Overwhelmed by the cannons from Boston, we fell after each mortar blast. Most of us died on that hillside at the service of the Mexican state. So far from our occupied homeland, we were heroes and victims of fate. From Dublin City to San Diego, we witnessed freedom denied. So we formed the St. Patrick Battalion and we fought on the Mexican side. From Dublin City to San Diego, we witnessed freedom denied. So we formed the St. Patrick Battalion and we fought on the Mexican side. We formed the St. Patrick Battalion and we fought on the Mexican side.
Songs we just heard were Terry Whitmore, also by Ryan Harvey, followed by the St. Patrick's Battalion by David Rovics. Now, in telling the story of the U.S. American Empire, we can't forget that the empire doesn't respect its own borders, but rather is a force that not only seeks to expand, but also seeks to often be the power behind the scenes in countries all over the Western Hemisphere, and now on the other side of the world too. However, this is also a nation that after it does its meddling, it refuses to take responsibility. These next few songs will be exploring that theme.
Casi 14 años sin ir a mi tierra, a donde nací. Ya todo ha cambiado, le ruego a mi Dios no se olviden de mí. Se murió mi madre dice mi padre que ya está muy viejo y no quiere venir. Y yo sin poder ir, y yo sin poder ir. Trabaje y trabaje, tengo muchos días que no miro el sol. Mis hijos son grandes y no les entiendo, no hablan español. No han sentido miedo, aquel que no ha visto una camioneta de migración o una deportación, o una deportación. De botitas y sombrero me miran seguido por el freeway. Jardinero, cocinero, igual me la rifo, dirán anyways. Y aunque me miren pa' abajo, la cara levanto empinándome un bote. Como quiera soy amigo y también mexicano, mexicano hasta el tope. Y con mucho cariño, de parte Calibre 50, corrido pa' toda la raza. La vida no es fácil y menos acá lo que dicen no es cierto. No más de acordarme las miles de cruces que viene el desierto. Las noches son tristes, pensando y pensando en los que se quedaron, se me pasa el tiempo. Y en ver a mi viejo, y en ver a mi viejo. Más que agradecido estoy con mi Dios por lo que me ha dado. Les mando un saludo a todos mis primos, mis tíos y hermanos. Con los ojos tristes y paso cansado, promete Juanito que va a visitarlos y poder abrazarlos, y poder abrazarlos. De botitas y sombrero me miran seguido por el freeway. Jardinero, cocinero, igual me la rifo, dirán anyways. Y aunque me miren pa' abajo, la cara levanto empinándome un bote. Como quiera soy amigo y también mexicano, mexicano hasta el tope.
Buenos días a todos los amables oyentes en esta mañana de su radio Inti-Radio. Allí ya chukaliyachu walakyachu mereya kasekichis. Kay qosqollaqtapiqa qllatata qawallaqtakunapi uyarimarniykuna wayqikuna panaykuna. Kunaqa allintaki wayrakuna chaymunqa kay Puerto Rico nacionmanta pacha. Paykunaq sutinmi calle 13. Inaspataq vemos taquita pomanchis. Chaytaki sutinmi Latinoamérica uyariykusunchis.
Cancunapaq. Soy lo que dejaron, soy toda la sobra de lo que se robaron. Un pueblo escondido en la cima, mi piel es de cuero, por eso aguanta cualquier clima. Soy una fábrica de humo, mano de obra campesina para tu consumo. Frente de frío en el medio del verano, el amor en los tiempos del cólera, mi hermano. El sol que nace y el día que muere, con los mejores atardeceres. Soy el desarrollo en carne viva, un discurso político sin saliva. Las caras más bonitas que he conocido, soy la fotografía de un desaparecido. La sangre dentro de tus venas, soy un pedazo de tierra que vale la pena una canasta con frijoles. Soy Maradona contra Inglaterra, anotándote 2 goles. Soy lo que sostiene mi bandera, la espina dorsal del planeta en mi cordillera. Soy lo que me enseñó mi padre, el que no quiere a su patria, no quiere a su madre. Soy América Latina, un pueblo sin pierna pero que camina. Oye,
tú no puedes comprar al viento, tú no puedes comprar al sol, tú no puedes comprar la lluvia, tú no puedes comprar el calor, tú no puedes comprar las nubes, tú no puedes comprar los colores, tú no puedes comprar mi alegría, tú no puedes comprar mis dolores, tú no puedes comprar al viento, tú no puedes comprar al sol, tú no puedes comprar la lluvia, tú no puedes comprar el calor, tú no puedes comprar las nubes, tú no puedes comprar los colores, tú no puedes comprar mi alegría, tú no puedes comprar mis dolores.
tengo los lagos, tengo los ríos, tengo mis dientes pa' cuando me sonrío, la nieve que maquilla mis montañas, tengo el sol que me seca y la lluvia que me baña, un desierto embriagado con peyote, un trago de pulque para cantar con los coyotes, todo lo que necesito. Tengo a mis pulmones respirando azul clarito, la altura que sofoca. Soy las muelas de mi boca, mascando coca, el otoño con sus hojas desmayadas, los versos escritos bajo la noche estrellada, una viña repleta de uva, un cañaveral bajo el sol en Cuba. Soy el mar Caribe que vigila las casitas, haciendo rituales y agua bendita, el viento que peina mi cabello. Soy todos los santos que cuelgan de mi cuello, el jugo de mi lucha no es artificial porque el abono de mi tierra es natural.
Tú no puedes comprar el viento, tú no puedes comprar el sol, tú no puedes comprar la lluvia, tú no puedes comprar el calor, tú no puedes comprar las nubes, tú no puedes comprar los colores, tú no puedes comprar mi alegría, tú no puedes comprar mis dolores. Não se pode comprar o vento, não se pode comprar o sol, não se pode comprar a chuva, não se pode comprar o calor, não se pode comprar as nuvens, não se pode comprar as cores, não se pode comprar minha alegria, não se pode comprar minhas dores. No puedes comprar el sol, no puedes comprar la lluvia.
Pero con orgullo, aquí se comparte, lo mío es tuyo. Este pueblo no se ahoga con marullo, y si se derrumba, yo lo reconstruyo. Tampoco pestañeo cuando te miro, para que te recuerdes de mi apellido. La operación Cóndor invadiendo mi nido, perdono pero nunca olvido. Oye,
vamos caminando, aquí se respira lucha. Vamos caminando, yo canto porque se escucha.
Those last two songs were Latino America by Calle 13. That's a band from Puerto Rico. And that was followed by Corrido de Juanito by Calibre 50. That last song is the story of, telling the story of a man who has traveled to this country. He's an undocumented migrant. He has kids here who speak English, who are very Americanized, but he feels very isolated in this racist culture. He feels isolated even from his own kids growing up here. And the problem is he can't go back home to see his family. I think in the song story, his father was dying, but he can't go back because he might be separated from his kids. And just a really powerful story of what the border experience is like for many who have to cross it. However, in the midst of all this sadness, the good news is that when it comes to empire, their power depends on obedience. And human beings aren't robots. We don't have to be obedient.
Elegimos la libertad sobre el miedo, porque nuestros futuros están interconectados. Las vidas negras importan, las vidas negras importan. Ningún ser humano es sin liga, ningún ser humano es sin liga. El agua es vida, el agua es vida. Basta de violencia machista, basta de violencia machista. Yeah.
say about your president? I'm talking about Bush. I got a few words that I need to talk about to Mr. Bush. You see, I'm going to say, Bush, we tired of your lies. We tired of what you're doing here. You done lied about the bomb, about this. You got our soldiers over there. You got our people being killed every day. What if we just, you know what? I'm going to get the damn king together. We're going to get in the van. We're going to ride up to the White House. And I'll pull up to the White House door. I'm going to get out and walk. And I'm going to knock on the door like this. And I'm going to step back a little bit, you know. Just, you know, security. I say, Bush in it! You tell Mr. Bush to come on ahead. I got something for you, Bush. I want you to take this and put this in your bush. You know, Bush, you're going to keep on doing what you're doing, and guess what? You think about if every American in this U.S. of A get together and decide to say, we're not going to pay no more taxes. I was talking to a friend of mine. He said he don't want no wars no more. You see, they're building bombs while our schools are falling. Tell me what in the hell we're paying taxes for. Well, now what if we all stop paying taxes? I said now, what if we all
we were told the following. If President Kerr actually tried to get something more liberal out of the regents in his telephone conversations, why didn't he make some public statement to that effect? And the answer we received from a well-meaning liberal was the following. He said, would you ever imagine the manager of a firm making a statement publicly in opposition to his board of directors? That's the answer. Well, I ask you to consider, if this is a firm, and if the Board of Regents are the Board of Directors, and if President Kerr, in fact, is the manager, then I tell you something, the faculty are a bunch of employees, and we're the raw materials. But we're a bunch of raw materials that don't mean to have any process upon us, don't mean to be made into any product, don't mean to end up being bought by some clients of the university, be they the government, be they industry, be they organized labor, be they anyone. We're human beings. There's a time when the operation of the machine becomes so odious, makes you so sick at heart that you can't take part. You can't even passively take part. And you've got to put your bodies upon the gears and upon the wheels, upon the levers, upon all the apparatus, and you've got to make it stop. And you've got to indicate to the people who run, and you've got to indicate to the people.
The last two glorious songs were No Es Mi Presidente by Taina Asili, and the second song was Stop Paying Taxes by Sharon Jones and the Dap Kings. Oh, and I can't forget the speech by Mario Savio. This was from 1964 in the free speech movement at UC Berkeley. And his speech, very inspiring speech. Today we have a choice about what we will do with this day. And we get to assign it the meaning we choose to ascribe to it. If you want to celebrate American exceptionalism and all that, go for it. That's your choice. If you choose to use this day to mourn, that's your choice too. What I'll be doing today is remembering that the story of this nation might be filled with an empire, but it's also filled with resistance to it, and that's something that can inspire and encourage us all. We have a choice what we do with this day, and we have a choice about what we'll do with tomorrow and the day after that. Will we choose to further entangle ourselves in this empire, or will we start taking steps each day to extricate ourselves and those around us in mindless obedience? We at the Objector.Church don't claim to have all the answers, but we can be there for you in asking these questions and seeking to live into these questions. So please consider joining our community. You can always learn about us and how you can support us at our website, Objector.Church, or follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/Objector.Church. So to close out this program, I want to share a powerful video. It was created by Melody Sheep using footage from the old movie The Last Dictator, starring Charlie Chaplin. This scene is from the closing sequence.
I'm sorry, but I don't want to be an emperor. That's not my business. I don't want to rule or conquer anyone. I should like to help everyone if possible. Jew, Gentile, black man, white. We all want to help one another. Human beings are like that. In this world there's room for everyone, and the good earth is rich and can provide for everyone. The way of life can be free and beautiful, but we have lost the way. Greed has poisoned men's souls, has barricaded the world with hate. We think too much and feel too little. We think too much and feel too little. More than machinery, we need humanity. More than cleverness, we need kindness. Without these qualities, life will be violent. And all will be lost. All will be lost. Do not despair. The hate of men will pass, and dictators die. And dictators die. And the power they took from the people will return to the people. Will return to the people. Let us all unite. Let us fight for a new world, to do away with greed. Now let us fight to free the world, to fulfill that promise. Let us all unite. Soldiers, don't give yourselves to brutes. Men who despise you, enslave you, tell you what to do, what to think, and what to feel. Who drill you, diet you, treat you like cattle. Don't give yourselves to these unnatural men with machine minds and machine hearts. You are not machines. us use that power to make this life a wonderful adventure. Let us all unite. Let us fight for a new world, to do away with greed. Now let us fight to free the world, to fulfill that promise. Let us all unite. Let us fight for a new world, to do away with greed. A world where science and progress will lead to all men's happiness. Do not despair, the hate of men will pass, and dictators die. And the power they took from the people will return to the people. Let us all unite!
Have you ever wondered if your religious community is hurting you or the ones you love? If so, we encourage you to look for these 5 symptoms of toxic religious community. Toxic symptom number 1, an us versus them mentality, which may include requiring its members to cut off ties with family members and friends who are not part of the community. Often such communities have their own internal culture, which serves to further isolate its members from the outside. Toxic symptom number 2, unreasonable demands of your time and money, even when it hurts the well-being of yourself or your family. Toxic symptom number 3, seeking to rigorously control the sexuality of its members. And by the way, we're not talking about providing ethical guidance on issues of self-care and consent, but rather we're talking about the need for institutional control of the sexuality of its members. Toxic symptom number 4, critical thinking is discouraged and questioning leadership is forbidden. Toxic symptom number 5, a strict hierarchy is maintained with leadership using fear and coercion to remain in power. No one feels secure. Often the upper tiers of leadership are governed by a different standard than those at the bottom. It truly can be a double standard. If you see any of these symptoms in your community, please know that you have choices. You can try to reform your community, you can leave it, or you can find another community. There's always choices. We at the Objector.Church seek to provide a home for those who have experienced toxic forms of religion, but who still want to experience the positive parts of spirituality and community from an interfaith, religious humanist perspective. We have live webcasts every week at facebook.com/Objector.Church, and also have 2 congregations in Oklahoma and California that you can be a part of. We'd love to get to know you. Come learn about us at www.Objector.Church.